Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Your Money Right podcast brought to you by Forward Motion.
I'm Sarah.
Hey, I'm Amanda. At Forward Motion, our mission is creating generational prosperity one family at a time. And through our podcast, we talk about everything about moving forward, how and why, how to get your money right. And there's a lot that goes into that. So we talk about financial literacy, we talk about mindset, we talk about career building, and it all kind of culminates. It all comes down to generational wealth, right? How do you build generational wealth for yourself, your family, and your future? So in today's episode, we are going to talk mostly about mindset, and we're really going to focus on scarcity versus abundance mindset. So it's something that you may have heard of before, but we're going to have some fun really digging into the scarcity versus abundance mindset. So what really is abundance mindset? So I have some prompts that I kind of want to chat about here, and we can kind of dig in. So abundance mindset really says that there is plenty in the world for everyone. There is enough. Everyone has the opportunity to grab and have the success that they feel that they deserve and what they're willing to work for. So Sarah, I guess I'll ask you as we kind of start, when you think of abundance mindset or versus scarcity, when you first heard about this, or, what comes to mind for you?
I feel like, just even based off of the little bit of conversation we were talking about before we started today, you think about kind of how much you have versus what other people have is what I kind of think of when I think of abundancy versus scarcity. And I think it can kind of be multiple different things. But when it comes to just money in general, like, do I have enough versus what everybody else has? I think that's what I kind of relate to, or what a lot of people start to think of it to begin with as well.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because, there's a thought that, we always like to think of things in different perspectives. And one way that we think of money or success is like in a pie, right? So abundance mindset says the pie is getting bigger and I just need to go out and grab my slice. And the scarcity mindset would say, well, okay, but if you get your slice of pie, then that means that my slice has to be smaller, or I don't get a slice of pie. And that really starts to go into, creating a competition mindset where perhaps we're now doing things or operating in a way that goes against positivity in order to try and get ahead, right? So do you think that when people think of the world as a pie and the pie is shrinking or it's static, right? The pie can't get any bigger. How does that kind of connect with you? What thoughts come to mind for you?
I feel like we kind of grew up that way, thinking like we're in this section of the pie or of whatever it is, and we don't really have access to that part of the pie. And we're not gonna get access to that part of the pie. Like, that's just how life is. This is where we are. And I think until I started learning from you and just being in the real world, did I even realize, like, oh no, there's ways for me to access that too. You just have to, like you said, be in that mindset, knowing that is. But I think it's really easy for a lot of us, based on where we're coming from or where we're at now, to be in that mindset of, well, I have this piece of my pie and I'm doing okay, so and I don't really think I'm ever going to get to that part of it, So.
It's kind of like if you grow up, let's say if you grow up in the hood, right? If you grow up in an urban environment, what is the top echelon of society that you might see, not on TV, not on the news, not in books or outside, but actually in your neighborhood? It might be an athlete. It might be, unfortunately, like a drug dealer. It might be someone who's, getting merchandise and selling it on the corner. I mean, I honestly, like, growing up, some people might remember the DVD guy, right? Like everybody had a DVD guy. He was at 7-Eleven or he was at, outside of Safeway or whatever. And you could get, DVDs for $5. You could get 5 for 20 if you're feeling, and this was this was an entrepreneur, right? This was a neighborhood entrepreneur, in a way. And so it's hard to see outside of what you see.
Or you might even have, you have normal everyday working parents, but you don't see, maybe them investing, or you see them just getting by, just living in that normal life, and kind of staying within your zone of this is where I live,
Yeah, or you see your friends or your friends' parents, and it's not let's create a business. Some people it is. I'm not saying that's not at all in urban environments, because it definitely is. But when we're talking about abundance versus scarcity, it's about what do you see? And so if you grew up in an environment where money flowed freely, people were investing, people were buying property, people were owning businesses, then that mindset of abundance, of there is always enough, there was always more, I can go out and get my piece of the pie, is much easier to see than if you grow up in an environment where people are struggling to get their slice. And I think that that kind of moves into like the science behind it, and I want to spend some time talking about the science behind mindset and abundance. And I want to talk a little bit about what are called neural pathways. And so I know that might sound like a big kind of topic, but really a neural pathway is just the way that your brain is trained. And I'll read here. So as people participate in new activities, they're training their brains to create neural pathways. The pathways get stronger with repetition until the behavior is a new norm. In terms of repetition, it takes about 10,000 repetitions to master a skill and develop the associated neural pathway. And so then I'll go on to, and these are definitions coming from different health journals, but neural pathways comprised of neurons connected by synapses in your brain, created in the brain based on our habits and behaviors. So when you do something over and over and over, or when you think something over and over and over, it trains your brain to take that same path when similar things happen. And so, to make it something physical, it's riding a bike. Riding a bike takes certain actions, certain movements for your body to make. And then we even hear the term, like, it's like riding a bike, right? It's something that once you learn it and once you master it, you're going to be able to do it over and over. Well, when we think of neural pathways, we have to also think that once we understand how the brain works, we have to also recognize that the same is true in the opposite, right? So if you train your brain to think there's not enough, or this happened to me, life happens to me, life doesn't happen because of me, right? I'm not in control, then you're training your brain to think and believe that. And so when something doesn't go your way, right, that's where that ability to have consistency takes a back seat, right? I tried this. It didn't work for me the first time. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's trying a new industry. Maybe it's trying to, learn and be learned in school, and you're getting made fun of, right? You train your brain to think, okay, well, that's not for me. And so now your brain believes that, and each time that you do it, now you're creating that neural pathway. So, there's a couple of different mindsets, And again, we're talking about scarcity versus abundance mindset. And so scarcity mindset says there's not enough. And those are thoughts like failure is a limitation of my abilities. Now, when you think of failure, what comes to mind for you?
You mean my personal failures, or just like in general, what would I consider a failure?
Yeah, like, yeah, that's great. So what would you consider a failure? Like, what would you consider failure to be?
I don't know, it's hard because I feel like I don't like that word. I don't like the word failure because I feel like maybe it didn't go the way you planned, but it wasn't necessarily, like, I feel like failure is so negative. So, I mean, if you were going to give it like a literal term, I would say maybe like you failed at like winning something, like a game.
Like a game or something like that. Okay.
But I feel like in life you don't fail. You just learn from something you did that didn't have the outcome that you wanted it to have. That's not necessarily a failure. It's just not what you were planning. So you just have to adapt or figure out how to change that for the next time. You know?
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. Is that stupid?
No, that's actually awesome, because on the other side of kind of a scarcity mindset or a fixed mindset that says failure is a limit that I have, there's the growth mindset that says failure is an opportunity to grow, right? It didn't happen exactly how I wanted it to happen this time, but that doesn't mean that I'm stopping there.
Right.
It's an opportunity to learn and grow and move forward.
Right.
I love that. I love that you shared that. So,
and then also, sorry, just no,
please.
Far away from it. For the pathways, the neural pathways and stuff. Could you also relate that to like a good habit and a bad habit?
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like you always used to tell me that rule, and I don't know it now, but it takes so many days to like.
The 27 days to create a habit, or take 27 days to create a habit and 7 days to break it? Or is it 21 and 7?
I feel like it was like a lot longer than that.
Maybe
like years.
Yeah.
Days. Like it takes like a certain amount of days to like create a bad habit and like years to break it, or however long they equate. It could be totally, I could be exaggerating that, but just something, the same thing, like your mindset. If you're constantly thinking, like, it's probably really easy to have a negative mindset.
Oh yeah.
And to just adapt that quickly versus having that positive mindset. And maybe it's hard to have that positive mindset because you don't have those outlets, or you don't know, you don't have those resources to know that you can have that positive habit. Does that make sense?
No, it totally does, because our brains are hardwired to go to the side, the path less traveled, or more, sorry, the path that has less resistance. Our brain is trained that way because that's our brain's whole, like this thing inside your head, its whole job is to protect you. And so trying something new, hard, or outside of your comfort zone it's hard, it's scary, and your natural instinct is typically going to be to fight against that. Like, stay in your lane, stay in your comfort zone, don't do that, that's scary, it's bad. What if it goes wrong?
And I think I can relate to that a lot from you guys, meaning Jeremy, you know, our family. You guys don't know who these people are. I used to just, you'd be, when this all started, when you guys were starting to talk about investing and all the things, and it would just stress me out. And I'd be like, look, I did my job. Like, I went to school, I got my degree, I go to work every day, I have a 401k, like, I'm good, you know, like, stop stressing me out about all this, like, stuff. And it was really, that was my reaction, because I was nervous and scared, and it was just like, it's overwhelming to me. Like, money makes me nervous. It just, so the more we talked about it, like I said the last episode, the less scary it was for me. And the more I realized too, what I thought was, I'm good, I'm great. It's like, no, this world, like, yeah, I'm a nurse and I make good money, but good money in today is not the same as good money is going to be yesterday or tomorrow. And you quickly realize, like, if you want to be truly like set up and comfortable for your future,
Yeah.
You have to do a little bit more. You have to.
And you're gonna have to do some uncomfortable things. Right?
Right.
It's so funny. I remember having a conversation where I was touting or talking about that $1 million isn't a lot of money. And when someone who's not a millionaire, because I'm not a millionaire, right? When someone who's not a millionaire says that, it's kind of like who are you?
Yeah.
Okay, $1 million is a lot of money. But it's in 2021, we are poised. We have more billionaires today than ever before, and we're literally on the verge of potentially having our first individual trillionaire, in our world. And so when you think of what $1 million is to $1 billion, right? And when we think of, I will never forget the first house that my mom bought in the neighborhood that we grew up in was $63,000. That's what she bought the house for. That same house today is worth well over like $270,000 or something. It may be more. I haven't checked it in a little while. So what really is different? It's the same house. It's the same neighborhood. There's been some improvements, but not that much.
I mean, and the neighborhood itself hasn't even improved as a whole that much to be.
Today's dollar is not tomorrow's dollar.
It's not.
Right? And so when we think about like what it takes to earn, there's 24 hours in a day. There will always be 24 hours in a day until we move to Mars. Like there's always going to be 24 hours in a day.
Wait, is there more days, hours in a day from Mars?
Oh, I'm not a scientist, but days are based on the number of times it takes for a planet to spin the Earth. I think the days on Mars are longer. I think because it's further from the sun.
How do we know we even go by days?
I mean, now we're getting very, very esoteric, right? But like, there's always going to be 24 hours in a day, and everyone has the same 24 hours. And so here's how I want to think about or talk a little bit more about abundance mindset. Embracing change versus fearing change, right? And hopefully this connects, but I like to ask the question of, think of the most successful person that you know. Doesn't have to be a billionaire or a millionaire. And then think of certain different celebrities that are that you follow or you're interested in. They don't have to be movie stars or music. Some people, like I follow financial literacy celebrities, right? Like whatever it is for you. And ask yourself, like, is this person just inherently smarter than me? And the answer is typically going to be no.
Right.
The difference is they are out there taking risks, doing the hard thing, going against their inner instinct to feel defeated or give up when the failures come, because the failures they're going to come. They're going to keep coming. They're always going to come. And there's a saying in the world of like, if you're not failing, you're not trying enough, right? You're not trying enough things. And so I always like to ask that question of like, why not me, right? Why not you? Why not you, right? So what are your thoughts there?
Why not me?
Anything you want in life, whether it's the next step in your career, whether it's financial.
I've always done a good job of like when I want something, putting my mind towards getting it. I don't know. Maybe there's certain things that I might not put my mindset towards. And I feel like now, like, I think it's usually fear. I think that's usually the biggest, or lack of knowledge. I'd say those are probably the two biggest reasons for not thinking you can be that person, or for whatever it is,
or be the you version of
that
hitting that level. Awesome. So the next the kind of next piece or the next question that I have is I wonder if it's so easy to embrace the limiting thought process of that's not for me, or I just need to be happy where I am and not want more for myself. And I think something that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to speak to people who are where I used to be. And here's a story that I do want to share. So one of my best friends, rest in peace, Alicia. When I was young, like 20, 21, we were roommates, and I didn't realize this at the time, but we were talking, and I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I remember the conversation, but I remember that she said something, and it was, I believe, a compliment of some sort. And my initial reaction was a defeating or negative comment. And that must have been the last straw for her, because she said, you know what, Amanda, like, I don't know if you realize this, but you're kind of a downer. Like, you're pretty negative. Like, you're a Debbie Downer, something Susan. and she said, you always have something negative to say about everything. Like, it could be, wow, you look really nice today. And like, oh, whatever, I just got this at the Goodwill. And it's like, okay, like, it looks nice on you, Mm-hmm. And that comment literally changed my life. And, I'll ask you, like, today, right? In the last however many years, would you consider me a negative person? Like, where I constantly am like thinking of like going to the negative?
No.
I've actually had people in my current life tell me, like, sometimes like I'm agonizingly positive, right? And I remember in that point in my life, things were like really, really hard. Like, it was hard to pay rent. It was hard to, like, I was a young mom. I felt like nothing was going my way, right? But that comment from a really good friend really just it actually opened my eyes so that I started to see, because I argued back. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just being real, right? And I hear people say that all the time when they're embracing their limiting beliefs. I'm just being real. I'm just being realistic. I'm just thinking of things how they are, right? And that was what I said. But over the course of, and it was years, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, man, it's amazing. No, it was years. Over the course of years, I started to recognize when these things would happen. And it was like little bit by little bit, I started to see like, oh, that was negative. Oh, that was a limiting belief. And today, there's a saying, so thank you, Alicia, wherever you are. There's a saying of you're responsible for your second thought and your first action. I don't know who the quote is by. I heard it from a gentleman that I worked with in the diversity, inclusion, and belonging space. And so going back to what you had mentioned about kind of that fear mindset, right? And our brains being hardwired to protect us from the unknown. So being responsible for your second thought and your first action means that as humans, we're going to have a limiting belief, right? We're going to have a fear of change. We're going to try to compete to stay on top rather than collaborate to stay on top. We're going to have that instinct of there won't be enough. But as you recognize that first thought and you respond with your second thought, right? Your thought about your thought is what you're responsible for. I can either say there's not enough in the world, and then my second thought reinforces that. Like, yeah, remember that time when I ran out of gas? No one was there to help me, right? My fault, I ran out of gas. Or I can have, a second thought of there's not enough. Well, no, there is. Remember that time when you were really positive and you continued to put yourself in the right place at the right time, and you met that person who then helped to catalyze your career into the next level. And now I could have met that exact same person in the wrong mindset and not, been able to have the success. Or you can be responsible for your second thought. You can be responsible with what you do and start to embrace abundance in a big way. So I rambled, said a lot there, but anything that you wanted to add or share on that?
No, I think you brought up some good points. It's all in your mindset. And if you have the mindset, whether it's an abundancy of wealth, of positivity, whatever it may be, it's like almost like, put out there what you want in return.
Yeah.
Because if you put out that negativity or that negative thought, that's what's going to be the first thing that comes to mind the next time. So I think that was a really well said. It kind of makes me think a lot about the way I've functioned in the past. Kind of makes you kind of want to just like get on that mind, continue on that mindset. You don't really think like, oh, that's true. Whatever you were saying, like your first thought, and then actually your second thought is what you more act on than your first thought, kind of take like a 3-second, like, okay, this is what my initial thought is, and this is what do I want to change about that thought?
Yeah. Take an inventory of it, right? And, kind of getting back to the neural pathways. If as humans, our first thoughts are a lot of times they're not going to be, instinct is to protect, and protect sometimes keeps us away from things that are great for us. But if we're constantly acting on that first thought or that negative thought or that limiting thought, we're training our brains to go down that path. Like, we're training our brains to, like, if you were learning to ride a bike, and every time you got on a bike, you veered to the right and you ran into a wall, and then you did that 10,000 times, like, one, you're probably not going to get back on a bike, and two, your brain now thinks like bike equals wall, right? And so, but if you sit down and you say, okay, I want to begin to learn and understand better about how to move my financial status to the next level. And then you say, okay, well, what's the first step there? I'm always going to tell you that the first step is to put together a really smart, detailed, and strategic budget. And then here's the real flex. Budgeting is easy. Then working that budget, sticking to it, right? And so that's going to be the first step. Now, the next question is, well, I don't know how to do that. Nobody ever taught me. So I'm not going to do it. That's what a lot of people will do. Now, some people will say, hold on, that was a limiting belief, and that's a thought that's keeping me where I am rather than allowing me to move to the next step. So what am I going to do, right? If you're a listener of this podcast, you might go to forwardmotionaz.org and pull down, some of our free resources, reach out and attend a workshop.
Sounds like a great idea.
Sounds like a great idea, right? If there's not a workshop in your area, you might say, you know what? I bet if I typed into Google how to create a budget, I would probably get some really great results that would lead me down that path to the next step.
I would go one step further to believe that if you typed it into your iPhone app system, the App Store, you'd probably be able to find a free budgeting app that you can download right to your phone.
You probably could. And then there's probably a section of that app or website that has tutorials and videos and advice and articles, right?
Yeah.
Or, there's videos on our YouTube page that have tutorials and next steps, right? And so it's all about that second thought and the first action. And so that's in a nutshell, abundance versus scarcity thinking. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is that if you believe that there is enough out in the world, you are much more likely to go out and get what is yours. But if you believe that everything that is yours, you already have, and you're nothing else out, there's nothing else out there for you, you're more likely to surround yourself with people who believe that as well. You're more likely to surround yourself with resources and thoughts that believe that as well. And you're more likely to stay in your little bubble and create reinforcements of that thought so that your limiting view of the world says, see, I was right, right? If you want to change into a new career and you apply for a job, you get one interview and you don't get the job, and then you say, see, and that's not for me,
right?
And then you never try again. Like, well, there you go. That's not how life works. Like you might have to go again and again and again and try the next and the next and the next, and then eventually it will happen. I think Jack Ma, who is he's one of the richest men in the world, and I believe he's in China. And he there's a story that he got turned down for a job at KFC in China, like so many times. Said, he's never going to make anything of himself. And today he's a multi-billionaire, right? And now he could have believed that, nope, never going to happen, right? But instead he kept going, and then he made of himself what he knew was for him. Same, you can take Michael Jordan, right? He didn't make the basketball team. He, missed this many shots and all of this and that. And we've all heard the stories. If he would have stopped, no one would know his name.
Right.
But instead, he said, no, this is what I want. This is for me, and I'm going to keep going after it. I think we probably have time for just one more. Let's see. Ooh. So growth mindset says, I can learn to do anything I want. I think this one kind of ties in really well with what we're closing on. I can learn to do anything I want. And a fixed mindset says, I'm either good at it or I'm not.
Okay.
So I think that ties in really well with, the Michael Jordan and Jack Ma little flips that we just kind of talked about. But any thoughts that you have on those two paradigms?
I feel okay. So I like that I can do like anything that I want. Like I can be good at anything that I want. I do think there are certain things in life that might not apply to.
Like what?
I don't know, like singing. Like not everybody can
Not
sing.
everybody is a singer.
But in that same
That's
token,
not true. It is. It's
in
true.
that same token, you can always, there are people that can like match a pitch, and that might not mean that they can sing well, but they can at least blend.
Yes, they can harmonize.
So I guess in some sense, but no, like I'm a very kind of like I'm not a great cooker or cook, whatever I don't really enjoy it. But if you give me a recipe,
You're a good cook.
I can usually follow it. But because I don't enjoy cooking that much, I tend to I'll skip a part because I won't read all the way. And then I'll be like, oh, I was supposed to split that up, But I firmly believe that like when I'm in the mindset, especially when I'm cooking for other people, usually when I'm cooking for other people, I do a great job. It's more like for myself that I don't pay attention as much. But it's like, you give me a recipe, I can pretty much do it. Like, I feel like if you give me the instructions, is what I mean to say. If you give me the instructions, I can usually figure out how to do something.
Let me ask you something. You just said something very interesting to me. You said, not a great cook because it's not something that I enjoy. If that's what you wanted, and if you wanted to be the best cook out there, and you dropped everything and you said, every day I'm gonna be cooking 4 to 5 hours a day minimum, or I'm gonna cook a new dish every day after work or before work. I'm going to learn different techniques. I'm gonna learn saucier. I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna improve my knife skills. I'm gonna do all of these different things. And you did that every single day for, let's say, a year. What kind of cook do you think you'd be?
Probably a really good one.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably great.
I can learn to do anything I want.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, I don't know about singing. Not everybody's a singer.
Just saying.
So,
Or just like,
moms out there.
I am definitely not like athletic. Like, I have been in sports and I do an okay job, but I would not be the first one to call out on the team. Like, it's just not.
What about when you played soccer? I thought you were really good.
So defense, girl, you just wait for the ball to come and I kick it out of the way. I'm good at that. I really am. And I can run. I can run a lot, and soccer's a lot of running.
Well, there are people in the major league soccer, whatever that's called, who are defense players.
Okay, true. Oh yeah, but there's like a whole hand-eye coordination that comes along with a lot of sports that a lot of people are not blessed with. Like,
Junior is always really good with that.
Yeah,
that footwork.
That's like it comes naturally to some people.
I'll get that. I'll give you that. It's like me. I'm an amazing driver.
Like, even though Michael Jordan wanted to get better, he knew he had the baseline skill set. You gotta just like. I'm not helping here.
You are. No, you are. You totally are.
Or want to, like, I feel like everybody wants to make money, right? Like, it's just a fear and getting over that not knowing how. So I feel like everybody really wants, money is something that everybody, no matter who you are, as much as you want to say, money doesn't matter to me. Like, even if all you want to do with your money is give it away to all the other people.
You need money to do that.
Money is, even if all you want to do with money is solve world hunger,
you need money to do it.
So I feel like that is what you're getting at. Like, we all want to be comfortable in whatever it is comfortable means to us in life with our financial situation. And we're just, sometimes a little bit afraid of how do we get there.
Yep. And we all want, deep down, or more surface for others, we all want that for ourselves and for our future generations. And the question is always, or a lot of times, how do I get there? And so today we've talked about abundance versus scarcity. We talked about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And what it comes down to is, I'll close it with this. You are all responsible for your second thought and your first action. So
that was that quote that I was really not doing today. Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in once again to Get Your Money Right podcast with Forward Motion.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Amanda. Our mission at Forward Motion is creating generational prosperity, one family at a time. And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Forward Motion AZ. You can find us on YouTube, Moving Forward, One Family at a Time. We are a nonprofit organization here in Arizona, and we do appreciate your donations at forwardmotionaz.org/donate. Thanks so much. We'll see you all next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.